Hello and welcome to this month's SIP, our spiritual interactive panel. We're waiting for one of our panelists who's having some technical difficulties, but we're going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to start with the Reverend Nancy Smith. You can contact Nancy at angelscapes.net. And Nancy, today's thing is karma. Does it exist? Do we have it?
Hello.
You put it in for coffee?
I'm so glad to be here talking about karma. It's instant karma with a little sugar. Will get you every single time. My favorite. I am a specialist in Akashic records. I'm a minister of mediumship. I'm spiritualist minister, and karma is real, but it's maybe not what you think it is. It's not a punishment. So I can't wait to talk more about it.
Okay.
Unless you want me to talk about it
now. Welcome our last panelist that was having a little bit of technical.
That was me. Sorry about that.
And you can find out more about Ginger at gingerhenry.com. Ginger, tell us a little bit about yourself and your relationship with karma.
Oh, well, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am an animal communicator, and I do mediumship and energy healing for people and for animals. Karma, I love what you just said, Nancy, about it's not what you think it is, and it's not a punishment, because it took a while. You know, we all have that saying, well, I don't know, karma's going to come and get you. So I love that we're going to be talking about that. So I guess I live my life that way, that I expect what I put out, I'll get back. Don't know that I am always conscious of this, but I try.
Okay. Missy Reyna.
Hi there. Yeah.
Reyna, you can find out more about Reyna at reynawilson.com.
No,
you get to play all this stuff, get all these things going at the bottom. People can see them. Go ahead.
Thepearlsflame.com.
Well,
sorry.
one that was for me when I signed in.
So I'm Reyna Wilson, and I am a shamanic guide, somatic coach, energy healer. I just help people on their life paths and finding, their empowerment and way, just the way, their inherent way of knowing the part of them that already knows how to connect to wholeness in nature. And glad to be talking about karma. I also, there's a misconception, I think, in this culture about what karma is. I also don't agree with it being rewards and punishment system. No, it's just a universal force of nature towards balance and accountability.
Okay, so, I mean, I like sea salted karma. I like it on my ice cream. I think it makes it, could add a lot of flavor to your coffee. I always have gotten amused by karma and how much people use it in so many different ways, proving to me over and over again that they're clueless as to what it really is. And I think that the big problem has always been that so often when you have a non-Western idea hit a Western mentality that has such a heavy underpinning of Christianity, that they somehow either homogenize it, pasteurize it, Christianize it, and then it's kind of lost in a way, versus what it really was, what the concept really was, and what it really is for those of us who have spent decades in spiritual study and in intuitive places and having relationships with people through past lives, through, dead people, live people, sometimes people that are in between people. Uh, but so we all have a lot to share about karma. So now I'm going to go back to the circle and start with Nancy. Nancy, what would you like to share with our audience today on karma?
Well, I was thinking about this and thinking about it. And then today I gave a reading to a group of people who and he came through, and there's a fellow that passed, and his family was there wanting to kind of know, is he there? Is he okay? And he had struggled a lot in his life with some really serious health issues. And as I was drawing him, I saw this warrior, and they said, "Oh, that is so him. He's such a warrior," although he was mostly hospitalized throughout his life. And he said what he came to work on from his soul's point of view was that he had been a warrior for many other lifetimes where his life was forfeit. This time he had to fight for his life. And that was something that he really needed to learn on a soul level. And everyone was like, that makes so much sense. And to me, that was a soul's, his soul is trying to understand something very important, and created a pathway for him to do it in. And that I was thinking was karma. Not that it was a punishment, but it was something that he agreed with his soul to do. And then his soul, his life kind of unfolded that way if this makes sense, it unfolded that way to help him learn that soul's lesson. And so I feel that it is. And then a lot of times we in the Christian community, heaven, we want heaven and hell. We want people to be punished. You're going to hell. We want to see them move in a place where we can feel better about their suffering. And I don't necessarily think that, first of all, that's the wrong concept of how to balance life and how good and evil and punishment and non-punishment works. I feel like it's a gentle way, or a soul level way of moving us to balancing our own lives out. And we have many times to balance it out. In our lifetime now, I feel that understanding what our soul's journey is more important to embracing our lives and surrendering to our lives, and in joy and peace, and not fighting it all the time, which this fellow did, who was ill for most of his life. And he left a legacy of wisdom, he was very funny, of love and compassion for his family. As they took care of him, he returned back to take care of them. Now, if we've done some, I've seen a lot of people go through a lot of struggle, and the New Age community will look at somebody who's going through that struggle and said, you must have done something awful in a past life. And this is not accurate at all. This is not the soul's pathway. But we Westerners will, like Kevin said, will take somebody's suffering and try to make sense out of it. But that thinking harkens back to the Middle Ages, to the Christian Middle Ages, when people had these horrible, the Black Plague or something, and this is a curse from God. This is a punishment from God. This is because you're sinful. And that is not at all what karma is about. It's not a caste system. It's not putting you down, or it's not saying that you are less than another person. It simply talks about, this is your soul's path, and these are some of the challenges that you want to learn from, your soul wants to learn from. We need to have great compassion for people who are suffering. We need to have great compassion for those who are suffering. Means to go under, to endure. The suffering doesn't come to an end of kaput and it's awful. It comes to a place of, at the other end of it, of wisdom, of understanding, of great compassion for other people. So we need to support people in their struggle, not judge them. And so therefore, karma, it just keeps thinking of John Lennon's song, Instant Karma is Going to Get You, which always makes me laugh when I hear that song. But because it's like, oh, you punch the dog and the lamp's going to fall on your head. And we always wish that could happen instantly. But I don't know that it works that way. I feel like it's about becoming aware of what we're doing and how it's rippling out, like the butterfly effect, how it's rippling out and affecting others. And that, in the Wiccan tradition, what you say and what you do will come back to you like times three. And I that's not necessarily karma. It's what you put out is what you get back, is also, I think, another way of looking at it. But to look at somebody who's struggling and to judge them is not, you don't really know what's going on with another person.
So I want to thank you for that, Nancy. And, we will be taking questions at the end. I do want to address the question that came up and you had just started speaking. For those of you, there are some people who registered through Meetup. In the Meetup, it should have indicated that you come to the Facebook page at the time. You don't get a link to be on the screen. You watch it on the Facebook page, but like you type a comment, like this woman typed a comment on our live, and I shared the comment, and you just have to go, somebody else answered her question for her, so I put that up, but they don't have a link to the access. And actually, you just need to be on the YouTube channel, or you could be on Nancy's Facebook channel or New Hampshire Metaphysical's Facebook. So if you put in facebook.com/New Hampshire Metaphysical, you come up, the live event is going on as we're speaking, and you can just type questions through there. We used to only send links when it was a Zoom, but now we're doing different so that we can engage more people in a wider variety of audiences. I hope that helps, Sharon. If you know who any of those people are and have contact with them, and I'm going to check and make sure that when we do this next month, that it's made very clear in the Meetup that you just come to the Facebook page. So I don't have time to go check right now. We're on a live event, but I will do so when the live event is over. Ginger, what would you like to add, build on, or tell Nancy she's crazy as...
No, Nancy is not crazy. I would have to say I 100% agree with really everything that Nancy has said. The couple of points that I think are important is, one is to separate karma from religion. And I think if you can separate karma from religion, then we don't sort of get caught up in that punishment, reward, be a good person, controlling kind of religious surround. The second thing is, we talk about energy, right? Energy, like energy attracts like energy, and there are different things we talk about, law of attraction and all these different kinds of things. But that's how I think of karma as well, is two things. One, the soul comes to experience whatever the soul chooses to experience. And what I put out, I hope energetically matches me. Now, we're human, so it doesn't always do that. But I think that's the point of soul growth, right?
Yeah.
So I guess those would, after Nancy said everything, I said, oh man, what am I going to add here? But those two things really, I think, are important to think about karma, because I can't remember if it was Raina that said, we always say things like, somebody does something, they say, oh, karma's going to get them, when something bad happens to somebody that we know that maybe is not so nice a person, and we say, well, karma. And I don't think that's necessarily what's happening. Does that make sense? I think I went around in a circle, but I think we attract what we put out, but the soul is coming here to experience whatever it is. And we learn, we evolve through, with the help of, with the aid of karma. That makes sense?
Yep. Raina, what would you like to add, give a different perspective on? And, I didn't say this at the beginning, and I'm going to say it now. So, Raina, gather your thoughts as I do point out, we have 4 spiritual experts that between the 4 of us, we have over 100 years of working in spirituality in some way, shape, or form, professionally, We all did something before we became professionals. And we may have places where we agree a lot. We may have places where we have a different take on something or a different perspective, or we use a different set of language. And if that, but we're not here to agree with each other or disagree with each other. And nobody on this panel is ever going to say somebody else is inherently wrong. They can say, I disagree with their opinion or I see it differently. But the reason we do these panels, do keep in mind, is to expose you to a number of different perspectives. And they're not all meant to just be, if we're all going to say the same words, we'd only need one of us here, right? And sometimes Nancy or Ginger or Raina may say something, and I may say something that sounds very similar, but I'm saying using different words that maybe Nancy used, or different words that Raina used, or Ginger. And part of it is you may have gone, huh, and then it makes sense. Or you may hear my words, and then one of them may respond and go, yeah, well, I'd say it like this. And the person goes, light bulb. Words are, sometimes the same thing can be being said, but the way that we say it, one person says it, we hear it better. So hopefully that makes sense. Raina, I let you gather your thoughts. Probably I spoke so long, they're moldy now, but feel free. And this is Raina from thepearlsflame.com.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, I'd like to build on what's been said so far with Nancy and Ginger. I agree as well with the points that have been brought forward. And also, I really appreciate hearing from the three of you, the aspects of, how when non-Western spiritual ideas come forward, the Western mindset can sort of like, yeah, thank you. Warp it somehow or misconstrue it and, just sort of contort it into something that it's not, to fit the Western mindset paradigm. That can actually be pretty limiting, where I am BIPOC, Filipino ancestry is one of my things, and I've had the call of the indigenous coming through me since very young, and growing up in a Western culture, there's been a difficulty there with, just a lot of finger wagging about the make wrong of, my indigeneity coming through, and having no mirrors, or, people, because of, coming from a conquered, colonized culture, right? That there's also an oppression there that's been internalized, not to really express one's own natural indigeneity. And so the thing is a lot about Western mindset and spirituality or religion. It tends to dissociate one's spirituality from one's individuality. It puts spirituality out there, where in reclaiming my indigeneity and decolonizing, I've just been affirmed with how even just learning in my pre-colonial Filipinos do not have a separate word for spirituality, because someone's spirituality is inherent in being human, right? And so there's also this Western concept of trying to not it dissociates one from their own inner experience, especially the kind of that's associated with struggle and associating that with bad or evil. And so part of this shamanic path that I've been on is just, and common is finding balance in the dance of life, between harmony and disruption, or well-being and growth, right? And well-being and growth can come from both harmony and disruption. Disruption does contain wisdom. And so we don't necessarily think of these in terms of like bad and evil, good and evil, and but really more is like what is or what is not going to be supportive or aligned for one's growth and well-being. And where is the opportunity, and where is the possibility, and can we find the place of power within one's own powerlessness or struggle, right? This is the path of empowerment. And so karma does make up of part of this dance of life. And it's not a punishment and reward system issued by some greater, omniscient source out there that's separate from the self, and from nature. And just concepts of good and evil don't really apply here. It's just the universal force of natural consequences or natural outcomes of what's going on. If if your path in life is to drive up a really rickety road around a mountain, and one side's the mountain, one side's the ledge, and just in your life path, you start to favor towards the ledge with your steering, like that's an action, a karmic action that's somewhere down the line. If you don't become aware of it, it's going to lead you over the ledge, right? So that would be a natural outcome of that kind of struggle. And so karma is just really just created by past actions and our present doings and some level of unconsciousness. And when we cycle through the karma, we're coming more and more aware as much as we can, right? And there's a point too with karma, because I've heard another misconception where people realize they have a karma. They think that they have to go through it because they've been told it's their karma, so they have to do this, some kind of suffering, or but if you recognize there's a pattern going on in your energy, in your life, in your relationships, that isn't really supportive to your well-being, and you have an awareness that it's a pattern, and you're cycling through it, you can now go into another part of the dance, that disruptive, creative part that does something different and novel, that's different from the pattern or the karma, the karmic setup. You can resolve your karma just by being a creator. And this is, we are meant to learn lessons in our lives, as souls, and we evolve. And I think as well that what's not really recognized is that beyond all the cycles of lessons, we're also meant to be creators. We're all magicians living in a magical field, right? And so how much can we come to empowerment and awareness, in our struggles, and even our joys, both can be very linked together as you go through life. And just one more thing I want to say. I'm really interested in how one can be in the whole spectrum of human experience and be in the dance of life and be a warrior of life or a dancer of life.
Okay. So, so I will show this brief comment, though we're going to be taking comments at the end. And I will put some comments on the up on the screen. There is a funny thing, and just so the audience knows, if I ever seem like I am distracted, it's simply because I'm running all the technology while I'm doing this. So I'm making sure everybody's banners are showing up and blah, blah, and things like that. But I'm listening to everything everyone is saying. I'm going to start with, I have a tendency, and I'm not going to say that it is attractive or pretty, but I'm going to be very honest here. And one of my warts is going to pop on my face. When I go into a New Age metaphysical shop and they have a big sign after it, before you steal, remember your karma, or something like that, I immediately think, yeah, they don't really know what they're doing in this store, do they? They don't really understand it. They're really just expressing their Abrahamic view of the world, whether it's the Jewish, the Muslim, or the Christianity. The whole concept of punishment is there in that very sign. And I think, really? That's the message you want to be putting out to your people when you walk in, that somehow by threatening them with karma, they're not going to steal. I have news for you. if they're going to steal, they're going to steal, and they don't care. And they may not believe in your karma. And maybe maybe you're having more dogma than karma by having that sign on your wall. Who remembers the "my karma ran over your dogma," right? And so for a long time, I think I taught my first psychic development class in 91. Maybe it was early 92. In the first couple of classes in doing psychic development, one of the things I do is I define karma for my students, because I think it's so important and it's so misrepresented. And if we kind of go in looking over our shoulder, or we think in our head, will my bad thought have karma? Okay. And Ginger made a reference to it, but I want to make a clear statement, because, which is, law of attraction is not karma. They're two different concepts. And you kind of referred to that a little bit, Ginger, but I'm going to put a little punctuation on it, because when hear people running around like, "Oh, what'd you do wrong? Well, you must have done something to have something bad happen to you," or "it's all about the law of attraction." It's like 99% of the people I've met that have said that, if I question about the law of attraction, are clueless to what it actually really is on a deep, meaningful, spiritual level. They take it at a 5%. Maybe we should do a sip on it at some point, but they take it at a 5% level, throw it through the Abrahamic religion filter, and then have somewhere else to get angry at because they wouldn't take their own power, because they gave it away. And I watch people all the time give power away to their karma. Okay? Give power away to their law of attraction, power away to their astrologer. When people try to give their power away to me in a psychic reading, it's like, "Oh, baby, I ain't doing that." I tell people all the time, all I do is give you more information with which to make better decisions. I'm not going to tell you what to do. And so I think it's very important out to the people that are watching this to understand, if it isn't empowering you, you need to question why you are hanging out with it. Why do you hang out with the person that brings out the worst of you, and then makes you regret every day, the day after, that you spent the day with them, when you're going to eat too much or drink too much or say something you never would have said or go do something you never would have do that is bad for you, and then you get to blame them. Well, they're always a bad influence. No, it's your fault. You didn't have to go. You could have said no at any point. Back to karma. Karma in of itself is bad. It isn't good or bad. Good or bad karma. The minute somebody says good or bad karma, I think, oh, they really don't get it, do they? Because neither exist. It's all about balance. You're in balance or you're out of balance. Karma just keeps track of your soul's evolving experiences. And when we have a lifetime and our experience doesn't teach us what we wanted it to teach us, our soul came in and said, you're going to have these experiences, and they're going to teach you to advocate for yourself, to be more empowered, or to step out, or to challenge, or to accept, or teach you patience, or teach you self-love. When we don't learn the lesson, that it puts it out of balance. And so when we go into another lifetime, we go, I need to balance that. I need to bring that back. And I may need to bring it back because I need to understand another person's perspective. I might need to walk in another person's moccasins or stilettos. Depends on the day and the fashion event. But in doing that, and bringing that in, you're kind of like, okay, obviously, if this happened, I'm trying to learn some experience. And I know, as in a human form and my limited perception of thousands of years and thousands of lifetimes, that I can't see the whole picture in this brain. I can't see the picture in this brain. And so as I go on, I don't think, oh, I earned bad karma. I went, there was something I needed to learn. And obviously I didn't get it before. And I really want to get it now because I don't want to repeat the experience. I want it to balance, because I've always seen it as that karma is this evolving, I'm going to, I hate to say this word, but I'm going to call it scorecard of whether we're in balance or out of balance. Not good or bad, not winning or losing, but it's just keeping track of, did we master this lesson? And then we can go into a lifetime with a mastered lesson and completely blow it. And it goes back on tilt a little bit. But the next time we go back in, it doesn't take us too long to get it back because we had the lifetime where we mastered it. And sometimes we look at it because we come in to help serve a karmic lesson to somebody else. We agreed, we just released soul contracts. If you want to see it, it is available for the public now if you go to the YouTube channel. But we agreed to come in, and somebody says, I haven't got this lesson. I've come back 3 or 4 times and I haven't got it. And I don't know. I keep on coming in with, selective hearing or limited vision. I don't know what it is, but this time, can you do it so big and so bright and so unmissable that I can't do this? Will you please, as a favor to me, be the one that rips my hands so that I can actually see who I am, or what I'm here to do, or how the world is? So yeah, for karma, to me, it's just helping us in our pathway back to our full divine self. And we go in and out of balance. So I'm going to, on that note, we're going to take some questions from the audience. If anybody has got questions, I'll try to share them. But I'm also, at this point, I am going to take everybody. If anybody, I'm going to see, we were having some background noise issues. So I had muted everybody unless they were speaking. I'm trying to see if yeah, there's something I'm still hearing. So who would like to comment on anything anybody else said before we bring in questions? Does anybody have anything that they want to share or anything about what anybody else said? Raina, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple more things we're dropping in as you're talking. There's also this idea of personal karma and collective karma, right? If someone comes into maybe an oppressive society, so to speak, the person will struggle with those oppressions, right? And that could be part of the karma, but we don't want to really assign badness to it. That knowledge of learning all the ways that one can struggle and feel harmed, or even to learn how one can even do harm. That's a learning field that can eventually lead, and if there's a bunch of someone's, that can lead to smashing the oppressive system, right? Whether from the inside or the outside.
I always said, if anybody said life was fair, they lied. Life is not fair, but life is just. And justice happens, and it will happen over lifetimes. And that's the balancing of the scales of karma, the balancing of the scales. And that's why I always say life's not fair, but life is just when you can look at it from the larger view. And in some lifetimes, we come in to be justice. Think about that for a second. Think of a place. I'm going to put some of my speakers on the we have some comments and I'm going to share them. But I'm not seeing any questions, but I will share some of the comments. But I want to ask each of I'm going to put my fellow panelist on the spot here. And I'm going to ask them the question. Do you think at some point in this lifetime, with what you do and the gifts you came in with, you have got to be justice? Nancy.
Yeah, I could see that. We talked about empowerment a lot of times, and having gone through this personal, having gone through 2 divorces in my life, I've been in relationships where I played a certain role, and that role no longer served me or served the relationship, and I had to come forward and say, this is wrong, this can't go on anymore, and guess what, I'm making a different choice, and you're going to lose, what you thought you had. And so, yeah, in that sense, it was I had to be the voice of no more, and that was a balancing, that was justice, that was ending a series of I ended generations of certain behavior because I made a different choice. So there's that kind of an ancestral balance. So yeah, sometimes we're put into situations, and even in a family situation, where there's one person born into that family that is not like the other family, and the ancestors are saying, we want you to go ahead and heal this generation, heal this family line, because we have, there's another word, dharma, but we have so much more we can do in our ancestral line, and it's not happening anymore because of alcoholism or poverty thinking or whatever it is. And one person gets born that doesn't fit into the family trend, and that person is the one that kicks all the ideas to the curb and says, no more, this is not okay. So yeah, I could see that. I feel that when somebody's Mothers Against Drunk Drivers was, I think, a thing that brings it into justice. I have a story that I have been thinking about. Plastic was born, I don't know how many years ago. Plastic is from an oil product, and plastic doesn't decompose. And plastic solved a lot of problems or in production and creation and blah, blah, blah. But plastic is also toxic. And it was found out a couple of years ago that they found plastic right on, Mount Everett, and if they found it inside of people's organs. But they found, some naturalists found a certain fungi that was growing out in the woods that was breaking down plastic for the first time ever. So there was a cause and effect there, which I think is karma. And I think of nature as being the caretakers of all life on the planet. And so Mother Nature or nature got together and said, well, what can we make to break this plastic down? Because we can't have a plastic planet. I love this. To me, that's karma. That's cause and effect. That's nope. We can't. No, we're not going to do this. This is not something that the planet decided. We're not having plastic on here. We're not having an element that can never be broken down. So, I mean, I think we all, every single one of us, are in a position of helping ourselves, and then and a result, we're helping somebody else bring their lives back into balance. We also can cause other people's lives to go out of whack, out of balance. And we can have it all in one lifetime. So heads up and pay attention, kind of thing. But yeah, a lot of times when we leave victimhood, we're challenging the victim. We're also challenging the caretakers that sometimes keep the victimhood in place to say, none of this, no more. And oftentimes we will look like we're the victimizer, and we can get blamed, and we can get misunderstood, and we can get all kinds of crazy stuff on our heads. and finding that inner balance within ourselves and keep moving forward on your own cognition or your own what you know to be true within yourself can look wrong to everyone else, but you're playing the role, like I said, of the family member, or you married into a family and you said, no, this is wrong, or you're in a job that's really out of whack, and you're saying to the people around you, the community around you, is that there could be a better way. Well, you can get laid off, you can have consequences. Those consequences aren't because karma is punishing you. Do you see what I mean? It's because society or your family group can't quite wrap their heads around the changes that you're being asked, but you've planted a seed and you've done your job. And there will be another place for you to go. There'll be other pathways for you to flow. And it wasn't your karma to be ostracized from your family. It wasn't your karma to be laid off because you spoke your mind, you spoke your truth. It was actually your karma to be the change maker. If that makes any sense to you.
Did anybody else want to comment on what Nancy said before I did?
Go ahead.
So, one of the things that I find interesting here is that oftentimes we have situations that actually lead us to a better us, or a new path, or new, because we had the courage. We were willing to stand up, and if it cost me my job, it cost me my job. I'm not going to do this. It's a place of, I always remember when I first started doing this, I worked at a place called a Mustard Seed in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, right on Main, on State Street. And I had this woman, and she came and she had a reading from me, and she had a reading from my partner, a woman named Dara Jane. And we were business partners in a psychic business, and we both did readings out of the Mustard Seed. And the woman came to me, and then she went to Dara, and then she came back to me, and then she went to Dara. And Dara and I talked, and she's like, she's always asking the same question. She's always asking the same question. And I was finding this, and she was clearly being what us on our side of it would refer to as a psychic junkie, in a way. And she just kept on thinking that maybe we would change what we said if she reworded the question or whatever. And it was a busy Saturday, and I was in the back, and I heard her voice, and she was trying to book another appointment with me. I mean, and this is over, like, we're talking like maybe 3 weeks, 5th appointment in 3 weeks, 2 with me, 2 with Dara Jane. And I said, I won't accept an appointment with her. I said, I've told her what I have to tell her. I won't accept an appointment with her. Now, my business was new. The Mustard Seed was probably one of the hottest metaphysical shops in town at that point. And my relationship with the owner got me in there because she knew me before I started doing professional readings. She knew what a good reader I was before I was even doing it, quote unquote, professionally. And the woman said, isn't my money good enough for you? And I said, not at the price of my soul, honey, get out. And I was in the back of the shop. She was in the front of the shop. It was a Saturday afternoon. There was probably 20 people in that shop, and everybody heard what I had to say. And that woman stormed out. And I knew at that point, I was like, I cannot not be in my own integrity. I cannot support somebody who is being codependent, is being a psychic junkie, I am not going to keep on taking the money. The money to me was tainted if I took it at that point. And the owner and I talked about it, and she ended up backing me up. I mean, I was at that point her busiest psychic, and she made more money off me than anyone else. So I don't think she really wanted to lose me. But everybody that heard that there, it's interesting how many of them ended up getting readings from me. But I didn't do it to get people to do readings, But what they heard was I had integrity. I wasn't trying to sell anybody a black candle. I wouldn't just take your money. But to me, that there may have been some karmic balancing there that was happening there. And it may have been for her. It may have been for me. It may have been for somebody I never met that was standing in the store. And that's one of those when we get to be justice. Ginger, you think you've ever been justice in this lifetime?
I think any parent certainly has been justice in this lifetime. And I think, to the conversations that we've just had around this, sometimes we get pushed to a point where we maybe start thinking, we think we're helping and we're doing this. And then we get to that point, and then we think, well, I don't want to either cut this person off or make a change because am I not being a nice person or that kind of thing. And then you get pushed hard enough and you say, you know what, I'm done. So this is more about me. I don't want to have to be this way. There may be some resentment towards the situation or towards the person. Like, this is not how I wanted this to change. I don't want to be this person that has to stand up but we have to. There are certain situations that we do have to do that. So definitely as a parent, as a spouse, as a person in a relationship, any relationship that's deep enough, sometimes that's what we have to do. But I wanted to say something, if you looked at it kind of not in a different way, but I'm an animal communicator, and this comes through so often when I'm doing animal communication readings, where somebody has a problem with an animal. Could be an illness, could be behavior. A lot of times it is behavior. And the person is so frustrated with the animal, whatever it is that they're doing or going through. And I'm going to say forces, but the person obviously has to make a choice to do something in a different way that helps them evolve. And a lot of times the conversation that the person will be having with me is, I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to have to get a dog trainer. I don't want to have to put a muzzle on. I don't want to, whatever the case is. And then they do it. My belief is that they evolve. That's what the animal is trying to help them with. And when they actually get to that point, maybe the animal no longer needs a muzzle. Maybe the animal no longer needs a trainer. That situation changes because that person stepped up. So I think there's a lot of that that happens before you hit the point where you say, like you said, Kevin, I have my integrity. I put a stake in the ground. But maybe there was some, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but maybe the last reading that you had with her, there could be some conversation with yourself, like, why is she coming back here? Why is she doing this? I don't want to have to be that person. But then you hit the wall and you have to be. So I think animals and children and people close to us in our relationships, we're all balancing that, right? We're all back and forth. What of myself can I give and not be taken advantage of? What of myself am I stepping on somebody else's path? Because I don't want to do that. Where do I draw the line in letting this person be empowered and not take any of my power? And it's a balance through our whole life with all of the relationships. So, but I wanted to say that about animals because that is so important. Almost in every reading I do, there is an animal coming through that is helping that person move forward.
Well, one of the things is an animal can bring you their favorite toy. They can bring you, something that they are giving you a present from something they killed from outside or whatever. But they may just be bringing you your karma. That they're giving you a lesson that helps you balance something. So I certainly don't have any problem with the idea of, animals being providers of karma or children. I always say we give birth to our unresolved issues and call them children.
Oh, yes.
So
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. So I'm going to move to you, Raina. Raina, do you think you've been justice? Do you carry the sword? Do you have the helmet?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. Even just the question raises up my inner warrior. Just this energy of like, whoo. um, I mean, one of my taglines, I didn't write it down here, the shamanic guide, somatic coach, sacred rebel. Um, so there's a lot of standing up I've had to do. And even in my growing up, even without me even trying, just breathing was disruptive to other people. But just me existing and integrity is also a deep thing for me as well since I was very young. But I mean, part of indigenous spirituality is an aspect of it is social justice. That's integral to well-being, and how we're all connected to our community, to other, right? Uh, it's human nature to connect and be in relationship. As soon as we're born onto this earth, we're in relationship, and so I found in my life just I've 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 come into my empowerment through this shamanic initiation path, initiation after initiation, spontaneous mystic experiences, um, that have just brought me more and more to this power where, um, okay, now I'm being like shown like Archangel Michael, right? That like one of the spiritual recommendations is to lean into him for him to, protect you and take care of things. And what I learned from this spirit is, yeah, sure, learn from him, like go to him if you have a struggle. But the purpose isn't to like resource him as if that's your way to empowerment. It's to also learn how to embody and become entrained to the energy of the sword and just become the sword. um, and so that's part of being in relationship with everything. So it's like whatever source of empowerment we need, we can relate to. If it's a crystal or something, maybe that crystal we feel a resonance with it because we're training to it. We need a certain energetic power to be reminded in our own selves that how we're connected to that power within ourselves, right? And this is just like with everything and everyone. But in my life, it's like I've overcome or come through and finding my way, separating from abusive relationship, personal, spiritual community type of abuses, and also empowering others and helping support others to find the power within their own feelings of powerlessness, right? Through just this weaving of understanding one's own nervous system responses, trauma responses, somatic responses, as well as their energetic um, life force energy, and weaving all this together so that they are empowered. And so I've advocated for a lot of people around trauma and finding their way through PTSD and resolving it, and also people with neurodivergence and trying to navigate this kind of society that does not include neurodivergent experiences, ADHD, PDA, autism, odd DHD, which is that combination of ADHD, autism, even PTSD is a expression of neurodivergence. And so helping to advocate for people in that way. And it's interesting because, just learning more and more about and reclaiming the indigenous spirituality aspect and understanding the social justice need, for creating reconnection, remembrance, and reawakening with each other, that we're meant to connect with each other, right? And so, humanizing support needs is one of the aspects of this, because in Western society, support needs are pathologized, right? If you need help, then you're weak according to this society, right? And so yeah, it's just been a long journey of basically being the sacred rebel, and even like it's an act of rebellion to go against your own patterns, right? All your that are leading you away from your well-being. So just even that act in itself is an act of sacred rebellion, right? And to also support others in that as well, to go against their own conditionings, right, that are stifling their life force energy and vitality. And I just, you know, being confronted with a question like, am I an activist, right? And I always thought of myself more as an advocate, but there is an inner warrior in me. And so I asked a close friend of mine if he thought I was an activist, and he said, your very existence is an act of rebellion, just because it can be disruptive, just my way of being in an integrity with my indigeneity and way of seeing things plainly without drawing, you know, like a big convoluted path around things. Yeah.
Okay, so I know we have a question. We also have a number of comments. None of the comments are questions. We're still playing around with the technology. You guys can see the comments that come in, right? You've been able to see the comments come in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Nancy share a question, which because it came through her Facebook page, I don't get it. So I didn't see it. In future steps, as other people get hooked up with their being able to put the SIP on their own Facebook page live as well. We're all going to have to remember, I don't see the questions if they didn't come in through my Facebook, the Facebook page I'm hooked up to. I do think that tying up some of what all of you have said is that, you know, the avalanche of neurodiversity, the avalanche of PTSD, the tearing down of old toxic structures, I do think that this is a karmic movement to help reset humanity and get people that just keep coming back stuck in the same loops. So I just wanted to say that. Nancy, can you tell us what that question is? And you know I have, again, the person that, you know, you've been commenting a lot, Lee, which is great. I'm going to ask if there's anybody that wants to comment on your comments. But if you have a specific question, please feel free to throw it up. But I'm going to start with Nancy. You had somebody ask a comment.
Yeah, I had from my Facebook page, Melissa says, I've been told I no longer need to experience my karma by just choosing. Can you respond to that, please? And she goes on to say, I was just in the eye of a tornado in my car, extremely traumatic, yet so grateful to survive. However, my property was demolished and there was a loophole in the insurance, so they're not covering that that damage. So yes, balance to respond without victimhood by gratitude for life. But she feels she has been very challenged for her whole life. So she's trying to like clean up a lot of karma from the past, but now she's thinking she's creating more karma just by living her life now. So how does she get off this wheel? So she asked the question. I think there's an answer in the question that she asked, but I would love to hear. So the question was, I've been told I no longer need to experience my karma by just choosing. Can you respond?
Would you like to start with that, Nancy? I'm happy to start if one of the other, if Ginger or Raina are chomping at the bit.
I just think I just want to make a really fast comment that she's told I don't know who told her this or where this came from, but she can choose to not keep experiencing the karma. And I feel like there's some kind of an answer in that you can choose to see your life differently. You can choose to ride the ride differently by checking in with what's the flow of the energy of my soul. What's the flow of my life going? Looking at your life as being challenged since the get-go. What is it that you can embrace to and surrender to, not give up, but embrace and surrender to, here's where I am in my life and here's what I'm learning. And so I'm going to enhance it by really understanding and adding to the positive wisdom that I'm getting out of it, rather than it's always bad and I'm just going to endure this. So that was one thought that I had, but the floor is open.
Yep, and we're all gonna fall right through it. Melissa, um, it feels to me like, and I could be wrong, and I'm okay with being wrong. It's May. I have to have my first wrong sometime before the year's out. This might be it. I'm okay with that. Um, it sounds like you're doing a very Western Christian version of karma when you ask that question. If you think of karma as it's just the recording of experiences that I have gained wisdom from and grown and evolved as a soul, why would you not continue that? And you also inherently, by saying that, make me feel like you think all karma is bad, which it's not. Sometimes we come into a life saying, I have really learned this lesson, and I have several people that I'm going to help learn this lesson in positive ways, in ways that in their human kind of reality are positive. It's always very hard to look at things from the human and the divine level of like what's really going on. But there is an inherent all karma is bad. Like whoever told you that felt like it's coming from a mentality that is basically saying karma is a bad thing. Karma is a wonderful thing. It's how we learn and grow. It's our journey back to our own divine. And so it can be saying that if you learn that you can accept things that you cannot change. I mean, let's go back to the serenity prayer, and part of it, accepting that which I cannot change, and instead of giving into it and end up having, fall into all sorts of self-abusive patterns. I mean, the fact that you were safe in an eye of a tornado, well, that's, if you want to talk about karma or good or bad, I think there's some good karma there, baby. I wouldn't want to get rid of it if I were you. Okay. Unless you got a pair of ruby slippers waiting for you somewhere. But the whole idea that there was a loophole and you've lost everything, but how you approach that is a karmic lesson of how to be in the world that you will take forward in your soul's journey. And if you give into it, if you become a victim, if your whole life becomes defined by it, if you make yourself sick, if you engage in self-abusive behavior, if you give up and stay for years in depression because of it, well, I don't think that necessarily I would consider a karmic lesson. I think that your ability to say, it sucks, but my life goes on and I have my life to go on, and I'm not going to let this event define my life. I feel like that is a really positive soul evolutionary thing. And it adds to your karma. Remember, karma is neither good nor bad. It's just a record of your experiences and whether you have mastered them or not. Are they in or out of balance? So that's what I would propose to you. I think the person that said that to you, I personally would question if they understood what karma was when they said it. So that's mine. I get to be the bad guy. So which one of you want to say, you're just horrible? Oh, Ginger does. Go ahead, Ginger. Tell me I'm horrible.
I don't want to say you're horrible, but what I do want to say is I don't know how long ago, maybe I missed that this happened. But again, I have to say you have to give yourself grace because it is determined by shifting your perspective, but we need healing. So it isn't something like when we're talking on this panel this way and we're sharing that with you, by no means do we mean, oh, you just have to think different thoughts, because there is work to be done, healing work to be done. So whether it working with a therapist or working with somebody who does tapping, EMDR, all of those things that we think of with fear. And the other thing is reaching out, and she may have already done this, but reaching out to those that can help, because that is a good way to share karma, for somebody else. Like if it were me and I had somebody in that situation, for me to be able to help would feel good to me as well. So to be able to offer help to somebody when they need it. And then the return of that might be her helping somebody else down the road, shifting perspective. So it isn't just shift the perspective. You have to do that in order to raise your vibration and evolve. But you need healing to do that. So I hope that she is doing that with somebody. But that's my 2 cents. So no, you're not horrible at all, Kevin. You are absolutely right. You're on mute.
I was like, shoot. Oh, I'm going to lose my reputation of the psychic sledgehammer. Thank you, Ginger. And, I just really want to emphasize that point is so important. And I do want to apologize if I came across as flip, because I did not mean flippant. That process of healing and that process of going through is so important. And I love what you said, Ginger, that you may be helping somebody else's karma by asking for support and getting it. And that, last month I run covenant groups for my church, and last month's covenant group was interdependence, and it was just fabulous. And that's all I can think of is when you spoke is humanity will only survive and we will only evolve if we accept the fact of the interdependent web of life, not only with each other, but with our animals, with nature, with the earth, that. So thank you so much. That was wonderful. Anybody else want to answer Melissa's question?
Oh, yes. So definitely agree that healing is a process, and also want to add that, wherever we feel like we cannot support ourselves from within, that it's a very natural and healthy thing to do to reach out for support with others who can give you a safe connection for moving through the process with you, and not in the sort of finger wagging way, or telling you how to do it, how to be more empowered, or because you really have within you the knowledge, the power within that sense of powerlessness. And how do we access this is one of the ways in finding a way to change our relationship with any tensions that are recurring in our lives, right? With support. So I hear about lots of challenges in life, and also the other side of karma. Another part of the dance is just that another force that is happening in life is this sort of primordial feminine force, this wild nature aspect of, like, the great mother spirit that will come in and turn things upside down, and just it shakes things up, and it's really random. It's not like the cause and effect thing, but it's basically that great source mother feminine, primordial feminine, playing with life, right, in a creative way, creating disruption. But going back to that feely sense of struggling with constant, repetitive, like, ongoing challenge in one's own life, one of the way to access, that I know walking through in my own journey, is involving your somatic energetic wisdom within your own body. It's not an intellectual process, really. When you're dealing with trauma, especially, it's to turn to your feeling of resistance to any kind of situation, to turn to that as a source of wisdom in itself. And because in this society, we can get really used to being, like, resistant to any feeling of resistance, like it's wrong. We have to keep aiming towards, some so-called positive way of approaching things. But when we a pattern in our body, an energetic pattern that's holding in attention in within our own bodies. There's a wisdom there that wants to be to be revealed, right? And so feeling just the minute reattuning to your own experience and your feeling experience, your felt experience with your own body, and starting to connect there and even find support for dialoguing with it to discover where the power is, the wisdom is, and helping you to move through the challenge with a different sort of relationship that's not as tension bound, so that'll allow you to eventually release more and more of the tension and have it naturally move out, and so that it expands your energetic capacity and your nervous system capacity to be with challenge as it happens in life, because this is what the dance of life is going to be. Things happen, and if you're in a habit of having these things come into your life and it feels like a tsunami, the more you can change your relationship and widen your capacity, the more it enters your field as a ripple, right? And that can be a pathway to even feeling joy through the path of struggle. And so this, to me, it's not separate. It's very human to find joy in one's own through a path of just being in the aliveness of whatever is happening. And so like in this Western culture, we kind of get into the habit of thinking this is bad and this is good, and just rejecting anything that feels like a challenge, when really that's holding wisdom for us. And I just want to go back and just reflect that the amount of attunement you hold, even if you're not weren't aware of it at that time because you're experiencing a trauma and sorry that happened, but to be in the eye of the storm, and that to me just shows me the power of attunement you have to be in the safest place possible, during such a disruptive, dangerous kind of event. And it's like, whoo, that just feels amazing to me. So sending blessings. Thank you.
So Nancy, did you have any other questions, or is there any response?
I think she's just listening. There's no more response from her at this point, but if there is, I'll speak up. But I love the comments that both of you, all three of you said, and I didn't touch upon. It's like she was in the eye of our tornado and walked away from it. Like, holy cow. So that's a tremendous talk about. Another word for karma is action. That's another word. And as we talk about it, it occurs to me that it's like the Akashic Records. It's the story in the Akashic Records. And we talked about soul contracts last week, and yeah, it's energy. I think if we use action, another word, if karma is a word for action or energy, then we're thinking too much about. We're you're putting your thoughts. Let's go in a different direction with it. That's in a positive way. It's energy in motion. So that's my thought, and I hope she speaks up later. I'll let you know.
So for those of you, we've referred just to soul contracts. There's also a number of different SIPs. Have we lived before? Will we live again? Spirit guides, heaven and hell exist. We put these out as a community service. And right now on the bottom of your screen, if you go to youtube.com/ New Hampshire Metaphysical 6196, that's the YouTube channel where you can see these. We usually delay putting a SIP out just a little bit. So this is where it will be coming. It will come out there if you want to go and see it, probably in about a month, I think, because there's a rolling of when they release it. But I wanted to let people know where they could find our previous SIPs as well as this SIP. The other thing that I want to do is we are Did anybody have any comment they wanted to share with Lee about everything that she said? We're not going to actually take any new questions at this point because we are moving into wrap down. So if you had a comment, Lee commented quite a bit, but she didn't ask any questions. So if you feel like you have a comment, just kind of raise your hand on what she said. Well, you're all reviewing her stuff. Monday, June 10th, we're going to try doing a sip on a Monday night from 6 to 7:30. Our next sip is what is spiritual abuse? I know Raina and Nancy are both doing that with me. If that's something that you're interested in talking on, Ginger, let me know. But Ginger and or somebody else will come on. Was that a yes, you are interested? Okay. So you can see these faces again. Give them your good face, people. Smile, wave, show some teeth. Just don't show them the fangs. No. So again, June 10th, you're going to have this same crew doing what is spiritual abuse. And all you have to do is go to the New Hampshire Metaphysical Facebook page. And Nancy's got it down, and I'm going to work with Raina and Ginger about how they can be putting it on their Facebook page as well. And we also do it on YouTube. And we didn't do LinkedIn this time, but we had the capability to do it on LinkedIn as well. So things are changing. I opened it up today and saw that you guys could actually put it on your page, which that's not what it was like when I first started working with the program. Surprise! Okay, so I want to do that. Did anybody have anything? I mean, again, she shared a lot of comments, but okay, Nancy, you would like to say something to Lee?
Well, I want to say something to Lee, but also Melissa commented, so I want to go back to that. But Lee is looking at a lot of oppression and disrespect from people in authority, and she realized that sometimes she was paralyzed or muted in a crisis. And I want to speak to her about soul contracts. I want to speak to her not so much about karma as about what is the flow of energy and her reaction to it. But I love what her comment was. I think it's like riding a rambunctious horse. You need to master it. And it's like I get the image of surfing. I'm not a surfer, but you got to ride the wave. You got to master the wave. You got to ride the wave. And I feel like this. If we bring karma into how do I not create more karma? It's riding the wave, and thinking of it like that. Melissa made this really cool comment. She commented about the tornado. It happened a week ago. I also did reach out, and as I did, I would to Spirit, to God, and as I did, I was able to help others in magical ways while the tornado was moving. Powerful woman. It was a lesson for me to stop being invisible and connect, as I have been isolating since my son's death. Okay, yes, I decided it's a new beginning, and yes, Mother Earth was spinning my car in the air and taught me much power and release. And Kevin is not a sledgehammer. It was informative. Truly, I was in a state of joy right after the event. But and thank you about being in the eye of the storm and thanking for all the healing. So whatever we said, I feel like we helped her open up a little more.
Thank you. We're gonna start to. I want to give everybody a chance. Nancy, we'll just start with you, and then go to Ginger and Raina. What's coming up for you guys? What would you like to share with our audience? Do you have any events coming up? Any things coming up? Now is your time to let these people know where they might get a little more zhuzh. So, Nancy, anything coming up for you that you'd like to share?
Well, I always have on Tuesdays, my Angelscapes podcast. And I talk about a lot of things like this, although now I'm thinking I need to do a show on karma. And this Tuesday, I'm having a medium from Scotland named Dominic Bogue, and he talks really makes some really good points about mediumship and different things. I have a number of classes that I'm teaching in person coming up. This summer, I'll be traveling to Lilydale. I'm traveling to 2 camps up in Maine, Camp Etna and Temple Heights Camp. If people feel like they want to travel, I'm teaching spirit art classes there, but I'm also serving circles and giving readings. So if anyone wants to know more about that, you can Nancy at angelscapes.net or private message me on Facebook or however you know how to get a hold of me. Thanks.
Ginger.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up or mention was the podcast that I've had for the last 3 or 4 years with 2 other animal communicators, mediums, and whatnot called the Psychic Wives. We've had lots of local guests on, and we're pretty close to 100 podcasts. We're on Apple and Spotify, so you can find us there or on the psychicwives.com website. And I just wanted to mention that I have been for the last 6 or 7 months really doing some intensive work with energy healing for animals in particular. And I'm rolling those out the first week in June. I've been for tapping, for scalar wave, for different modalities. So if anybody has an interest in some healing energy for their animal, they can contact me, and my site will be updated by the first week in June.
And is that did I get the correct website for your podcast? Because I'm typing as fast as I can.
Thank you.
Ginger Henry's. Yep. Before the next sip, we're all going to sign in early, and I'm going to get all this stuff pre-typed. So I just have to click on it. Raina, what's coming up for you?
Hi there. Yes. So I've been holding a monthly shamanic dream work circles and breath work, shamanic breath work groups. However, this summer I'm actually taking a break from those, but I'm always available for privates for either of those, any kind of sessions actually, beyond the shamanic dream work and the breath work, somatic support. Healing support, shamanic wisdom retrieval and healings, energy healings. And besides that, I'm also signed up for a lot of psychic fairs, and one is coming up next Sunday in Newburyport, Gigi's Psychic and Healing Fair, right there on the little banner. Yep. So thank you.
I am also going to be at Gigi Psychic and Healing Fair, 526 Newburyport, Mass, the Newburyport Elf Club from 11 to 4. So if you want some in-person Raina or Kevin energy, woo, 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 11 to 4 in Newburyport, Mass, you can find it. Which is why I had that typed up first. You notice Raina didn't mention I was going to be there with her. That's okay. Outside of that, I mean, I have my weekly radio show, Kevin Ross Emery with Ashley Oldstein, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every Thursday night live with different guests every week. And you can actually find that if you go to the facebook.com/The Dr. Kevin Show. It's still listed there. We made the mistake of trying to change one of our other pages and rename it, and it has disappeared ever since in odd places. And Facebook is just so responsive and helpful. Did I keep a straight face when I said that? So anyways, again, you can catch the 2 of us, Raina and I, will be at the Psychic Fair in Newburyport, Gigi Psychic and Healing Fair. You can find the podcast, thepsychicwives.com, which I've been on a couple of times, and they've promised to have me back, but I haven't heard from them. You can also find, I did not type fast enough to type up where they can find your podcast. Nancy, they find it where? Just on your Facebook page? Yes.
I'm live on Facebook page, and then it within 3 days it's up on YouTube, and it's up as a regular podcast on all the podcast stations. So we search up Angelscapes podcast. You can find it a couple different places. Live is always on my personal page on Tuesdays around 7. At 7, not around 7. I'm pretty good at being accurate. And I do watch the comments when you're on live. If somebody wants to have a question or have a comment that they want to be heard.
Okay. So, if you're watching this live and you didn't get to ask a question, you can always still and comment on it at facebook.com/New Hampshire Metaphysical. You can still comment underneath. Since the band's getting back together on June 10th for What is Spiritual Abuse. The problem is I've got so many of them here that now I cannot find them all. There we go. What is on June 10th? Also, if we heard from enough people that they would like us to do a live sip somewhere, how does my panel feel about doing a live sip somewhere and actually having an audience? You have to let us know. You have to get in touch with us. You need to probably get in touch with me. And you can do that at info@kevinrossemery.com. We will, if we get enough people saying, hey, we're in the southern New Hampshire, northern Massachusetts, Seacoast area, that we would love to do this, have you do it in person and do it as a full-blown event. If we do that, obviously there would be a charge because we'd be renting a space and blah, 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 blah. So we'll continue to do them here. Thank you to all my guests. You guys can all hang out. I'm going to end the stream, but you don't have to go away yet. And namaste.